We did a setup of MySQL container and Joomla container, and we did the installation of Joomla by using the MySQL container. It all worked fine and the installation was also very easy and simple. As and when the dependent components, it keeps on increasing, the dependency that we are going to build, that would become complicated. And to set up and deploy the entire infrastructure or all the dependent containers, that's going to add more complexity to maintain the infrastructure. That's where the Docker Compose comes into picture. I'll be having a YAML file, and as a part of the container setup, this YAML would be provided. To do the installation using the Docker Compose, I need this YAML file. YAML is yet another markup language where I can mention what are all the services that I wanted. To have the Joomla service, I'm going to use the image Joomla, and I'm going to link it with the MySQL image. And what is this MySQL image? This name of the MySQL database is Joomla DB, and the details about the image of MySQL I'll be providing over here in terms of what version, what is the user ID, password, and whenever I'm going to use the Joomla installation, what database to use, what should be the host name of the database whenever I'm going to connect to the database from the Joomla. Basically, I would build all the dependencies as a code. This we also call it as expressing the entire container infrastructure as a code. Once if I have this particular code stack.yaml, I can execute this using the Docker Compose. Already we have installed the Docker Compose. Let me go ahead and run this Docker Compose command. Let me say sudo docker compose, the file that I wanted to run, and make it up and running. This would download the required images, that is Joomla image as well as MySQL image, and get that configured, make it up and running. We don't need to worry about configuring all the dependencies. And if you observe very carefully, the port 80 is bound to the port 8080 of the host. So what I need to do, I need to access the 8080 port of this particular machine, the host machine, to get into that specific container through the port 80. So 8080 I will be accessing, and that's going to get me the installation page of Joomla. Let me provide all the required details in terms of the email, site name, description, user ID, password, and it's going to take me to the page where I am going to do the configuration of a database. Database, I need to provide the host name. I have provided the same host name, so I'll be providing this particular host name. So this is how that particular container is mapped, and user ID, and what is the password, what's the database name. I can provide any database name that I want, and table prefix. With this, it should be in a position to connect to the MySQL container, make it up and running. So the database would get configured and I can proceed with the installation. If you look at, these are all the prerequisites to do the installation of Joomla that is required. The container going to make sure all these pre-configurations it is existing within the container. My entire installation is done, and I can get into the blog, or I can get into the administrator page as well. So this is a quick demo on Docker Compose, how it is going to orchestrate as well as it's going to abstract the dependent Dockers or the dependent containers in a single file as a YAML file. And within the host, what are all the containers that are running, I can very well check. So two containers running, one is for the Joomla and another one for the MySQL, and both are connected and linked. In case if I want to stop the individual container, I can very well go ahead and stop the individual container using the container ID. So as a summary, we are able to represent the entire dependency of all these components as a YAML file, and using the Docker Compose, I am able to execute this particular YAML file and all the dependent containers deployed.